Hello YouTube, it's me Justin, June 28th, 2018. I wanted to do a video after watching a couple of my daughter's videos and being inspired. I have a lot of testimonial videos in the beginning of my journey through YouTube, but I want to tell a little bit about my story and kind of the trials and tribulations I have gone through, because like I said, I was inspired by the courage of my own daughter, and for her to tell her story, which her story involves, a lot about me, and basically I would, I've always, I was at that place in my life where I didn't think I was an alcoholic, because I was a functioning alcoholic. I owned my own concrete company. I worked for my father, and then like I said, I had my own concrete company, had two concrete pumps, was making a ton of money, a lot of money right before 2008, before the crash hit, and everybody suffered from the crash in 2008 in the construction industry. But my childhood, now in the video my daughter had mentioned bipolar. Now that was, I had seen several psychiatrists that I actually had to see while I was fighting for custody to get my daughter back. And I was told numerous occasions that I didn't suffer from bipolar disorder. I was suffering from PTSD from a traumatic childhood. Now my father, which, I've forgiven him, and I've actually grown pretty close to him, but was a very, 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 very violent man towards women and children. And from the age of even 6 months old, my mom told me stories about him smacking me out of the high chair, when I was eating because I was choking on an apple, and he tried to stick his finger down my throat and cut my throat and got blood on his fingers, so he backhanded me and I flew out of the high chair. I remember being choked, unconscious, punched, but my brother got the worst beating, and my sister Tanya. So growing up in that environment was very, very scary, but to me at the time, I thought it was like a normalcy. But then my mother remarried to my then stepfather, Larry Jarrett, and he was 10 times the tyrant that my father was. And I remember one time I was vacuuming, and I was bumping the couch with the vacuum, and that was the first time he laid his hands on me. And I believe I was maybe 9 years old, 8 or 9, and he had punched me so hard that I flew over the couch, and it knocked the wind out of me. And I had a humongous bruise on the back of my back, and I took my shirt off at my dad's house when I went to go visit for the weekend, and my dad saw it and asked me what happened, and I didn't want to tell him. And finally he got it out of me, and my dad threw me in his vehicle, and he spun his tires to my mom's house and confronted my stepfather in the yard and said he was basically going to beat the crap out of him. And now that I look back now, it's just kind of strange. It's like, he was just as violent. My dad, it's like, was he jealous that my stepdad got to use me as a punching bag and not him? I don't know, it was weird. But I always vowed when I got older and strong enough that, like I said, they called me Robin Hood in high school and middle school. Of all the fights I got in middle school and high school, I never once got suspended, because I always beat up the bullies. And I have a handicapped sister with cerebral palsy, and I watched people make fun of her my whole life when I was a child growing up. So I vowed when I got strong enough and I learned to fight and got into martial arts. Like I said, my brother's second-degree black belt taekwondo. He's a bad mofo, I guess you could say. My brother is. But anyways, I made that decision in life. People always say, oh, that hit women, oh, well, I was beaten as a child, this and that, and I watched my dad beat my mom, and that's why I do it. No, it's not. when you become your own man and you choose what path you choose not to hit women or children. You know, it's a disgusting, sick, it just makes me sick. And that's why I have no problems at all if I witness anything like that in public. And I know I'm, you know, right with God and everything, but, you know, I'd have to repent later if I were to step out and see a man just shove a woman. I'd get locked up because I'd beat the crap out of him and not think twice about it. And so anyways, that's just kind of my story, a little bit of just where the PTSD came in. My daughter, when, you know, I had her on my own, her mom left, she says 6 months, but it was actually 6 weeks. But she left because, well, basically I kicked her out. I found her cheating on me, and I had no idea that the guy that she was cheating on me with had been in prison for 5 years for manufacturing and selling crystal methamphetamines. At that time, I had never even heard of crystal meth, didn't know anything about it. So anyways, she got back with this guy, had waited on him for years. I guess I had no idea. The best thing that ever happened to me, but I, you know, it tore, you know, my family apart at the time. But 8 years later, you know, not one Christmas card, not one birthday card for my daughter, nothing ever. But I never badmouthed her mom to Haven. You know, I just always said she was, you know, troubled, she was sick, and the thing I'm sitting on is falling over. I'm out in the woods by the big fern. I had to search for a while to find it. But she had told me that she was clean for 2 years and this and that, and she wanted to, you know, she basically had no place to live. You know, we were staying in one of my brother's houses. I was paying him rent, but you know, it was my daughter says abandoned house, but technically it wasn't. But it's just I remember coming home from work, and she had only been there 2 days, and when I came home from work, the AC had gone out, and it was a hot day, and out came Haven's mom and Haven out of the bathtub. I guess they were trying to stay cool, and my daughter had this evil, just upset, frightened, but just a look I've never seen on her face before. And I thought immediately that my daughter was upset that I had seen her mother naked. And I was actually furious because her mom was wasted. And I seen a big giant vodka bottle, and I asked her, I said, "Where did you get this?" She's like, "I walked to the liquor store." And I was like, "With Haven?" And she's like, "Yeah, she was trashed." And that's crossing a 6-lane highway to get to the liquor store, which was about 2 miles away from the house. And let's see, I'm just going to sit on the ground here. But she was completely wasted, completely trashed, and I immediately kicked her out. And the more I think about it, you know, I remember my daughter standing at my side at the doorway, and she was yelling for her mom to leave and never come back. And I thought her mom was Haven was just upset that, one, that I saw her mom naked, and two, that her mom was drunk. I had no clue what her mom had did to her in the bathtub. I didn't find out till months later when my daughter opened up and told counselors or whatnot. And I remember I was with my brother. He had just dropped me off, and I got a call, and it was a woman saying that this is DCF. We have your daughter. And I thought it was a joke. I was like, "Yeah, right. Who the hell is this?" And they're like, "No, we have your daughter." Blah 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 blah. So when I went to court, one of the reasons why they took my daughter is they said that I had left her in the care of a known drug addict. Now, I haven't seen this woman in 8 years. She's the mother of my child. She had no place to go. She wanted to co-parent. We were not going to get back in a relationship by no means. I couldn't stand the person. And I'm sorry, Haven, but I just despised this woman for everything she had done. And anyways. But so the state took her, and from that point on is when my drinking became even worse, because my foundation, my life, my everything was ripped away from me, ripped right out from underneath me. And then I would get back on the wagon, and I would go to fight and fight and fight for her. And financially, if you don't have the money, and it's very, very hard fighting to get your child back as a father. And even in the report, it said the father's lack of discipline is detrimental to the child, because I told the state that I don't even spank my daughter, and so I told the judge, I said, so if I would have spanked my daughter, you would have took her away, and then one of the reasons you're taking her away is because I don't spank her. It was just total confusion. And so we ended up fighting for her and got her up here to Wisconsin, and my daughter was to start school, a couple years ago up here, and I got a phone call in the morning from my lawyer. Says state called. They said you need to have your daughter back in Florida in 24 hours because there was some kind of mix-up in the paperwork that they filed. We were going to register in school the next day, and I sat there for a good 45 minutes in tears, knowing that I had to go wake up my daughter and tell her she had to go back to Florida. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. So we got through that. That was rough. That was extremely, extremely hard. But so she got to Florida, and I fought, and we got her out of my dad's house, and then got her into this group home, which I remember she was so terrified the first night when she called, and she took a picture of the bed she was sitting in. I was just devastated. But they took her in and welcomed her, and she's done so great ever since. I mean, yes, she's had her share of fights, and she's a Welsh. She's pardon my French, she's a little badass, but her heart, she has a heart of gold, and she's working on her anger. And see, that's the thing when people, they throw out that bipolar word. Just anytime you get mad, or you get you want to fight somebody, me, I don't get along well with men that are just trashy to women, disrespectful to women. I don't tolerate that. So yeah, I have a temper, and I'll call somebody out in the middle of a grocery store. I don't care. But that part I'm working on as well. But anyways, having my daughter ripped away from me for something I did not do was horrible, and not having the financial backing, because my father was getting paid a pretty good sum of money to have my daughter, and he fought me tooth and nail, and they came up with new allegations all the time, even as far as saying that I had drug charges. And I even told the judge, I said, look up my arrest record. I got arrested for shooting myself years and years ago. Accidental shooting. So I told him it was an accident, but that's here nor there. I said, I have no drug charges. I said, look up my arrest. I said, they're lying, blatantly lying. And she did. She looked it up, and the judge ripped them a new rear end for bringing them kind of lies to court. So I had to battle court. But anyways, it's very hot out here. I thought this was going to be a better testimony, but if anything, I just want to say that through all this that I drugged my daughter through, and for her to turn out the way she has is mind-blowing. And she is my best friend. I love her dearly, and thank you all for showing her channel support. And I see a lot of comments, and I'm still having trouble replying. Sometimes it lets me, sometimes it doesn't. But the support that you're showing her and her channel, that means the world to me. We are one big family on here. So anyways, that's just a little bit of my testimony. I guess it wasn't a really great one, but it's super hot. But sitting out here in my secret garden. Anyways, fear no man, never fear death, get right with God, fight the good fight, stay locked and loaded 100%. And once again, thank you so much for the kind words and support to my daughter's channel. It's definitely uplifting, and for me. So take care. Later.